It's time to put it all together. Welcome to SETI Astro. I have had a couple of requests to do a narrowband processing video and to show how all my scripts fit together. I also want to say that if you're a channel member, you'll have access to my lights. I'm going to be uploading all my master lights for my channel members if you want to become a member. So we'll be going through processing my Eagle nebula. I have oxygen, sulfur, and hydrogen. The first step I always do is to rename them all. I got just handy identifiers here. So that's hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur. And then I always like making an image container to do my initial processing. The other thing to help save time on doing the initial processing is if you do a process container, we can go ahead and drop those initial ones in there. So firstly, we'll do a correct only blur exterminator. And then I have my settings for blur exterminator that I like. Then we'll go ahead and utilize star exterminator and noise exterminator. So these will be my initial pre-processing with all those AI tools. We can just set that over here. We'll want to go ahead and remove the gradients. And I have my ADBE script. It is currently updated with its more robust noise-based weighting scheme. And I'm just going to run it on defaults on this image here. Also tell it to replace the target image. Okay, the S2 gradient looks pretty good. O3 gradient looks well. And then for hydrogen, since the middle portion is so bright, I'm going to turn off enable simplified initial modeling. We don't want to throw off the gradient with all that. And again, I'm going to tell it to replace the target image. I'm also going to tell it to be very smooth. There's not much gradient at all in this particular image. All right, now that all the gradients are removed, and we have our process container here with all the AI-based exterminator items, we'll go ahead and drop that onto our image container. And we'll be back when that all finishes running. Okay, we have all the pre-processing steps done. Here are all my stars, so we can go ahead and minimize the stars. And now we're left to go ahead and stretch our various channels. I'm going to start with H alpha since it has the most. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my statistical stretch. And let's just go ahead and do a preview refresh just on the defaults of 0.25. And I think I'm going to go with it. Execute. Now for the other channels, especially oxygen, there's not as much signal out here as there is in the hydrogen. So let's go ahead and find some of the darker areas out here. I got like a 0.19, 0.18, 0.17. I think that's what I'm going to want to stretch the oxygen to. So we'll go ahead and bring back up statistical stretch. And now let's just do a 0.17 on the oxygen. And we're probably going to want to just check it out first. I think that's good for the initial stretch. We could always tweak it if we need to. And I think we should go ahead and do something similar to the sulfur. There's a little more signal throughout. I'm going to go with a 0.2 for the target median. All right, now we have our 3 channels. For hydrogen, the core is mighty bright, very strong signal. So I'm going to go ahead and go processes, HDR multi-scale transform. And I want to see just what that's going to do. We'll keep the number of layers at 6 right now just as a trial. I really like how much it actually brought that core down. Maybe it was a little too much. So that was the before. And that's the after. So let's go ahead and open mask range selection. We only wanted to affect the core, those bright areas. And the other thing, I don't want it to be a full blast of that HDR. So why don't we go ahead and I'm going to just take our mask and use pixel math. And let's just subtract off 0.25. So that way all these points out here will be 0.75 versus the full 1. All that's going to do is dim our mask here a little bit so the HDR won't be as strong and it'll still leave some extra brightness here. So let's go ahead and rerun HDR multi-scale transform with the mask on now. There we go. So that was the before and the after, and now we can really see what's going on in the core of the eagle. The next thing I always like doing is just doing some curves tweaks so I can see by eye roughly how bright all these central spots are, just so when we combine them, they'll be a little more easily managed that are already all similarly bright. Right, we're up here in the 0.8-ish range. We'll just go ahead and give it a little curves boost here. We'll have to do the same for the hydrogen. And then the oxygen's already up there in the upper 0.8s. Now it's a matter of choosing a palette. I'll show 2 palettes. We'll do a SHO and then a 4X. So for SHO, I'm actually going to go LRGB combination. I'm going to put the hydrogen in for the luminance as well as the green. Oxygen in the blue. And sulfur in the red. All right, there's our SHO. Now let's also see what 4X palette's going to yield. I like using Polyman Astro's 4X palette utility. We have 3 channels. We don't need any stars. We'll deal with those later. S2, H alpha, O3. Let's just see what that looks like. We can close those additional images it made. So there's 4X, and there's a traditional SHO. Let's try to work with the SHO a little bit, but I'm already liking the 4X with all the ruddy reds of the hydrogen envelope, and then we could bring out those blues really easy in the core here in a second. But let's just see if we can get any progress on the SHO, and then we'll look at working on the 4X to see if we like that one better. So we'll minimize our stretched masters. Get them out of the way. And a good first place to start is Bill Blanchin's narrowband normalization. He does have a process now. narrowband normalization, I always just have it on the desktop. This is an SHO palette. We'll go ahead and look at the preview. We probably got to do some reduction in the highlighted area, just because it was so bright when everything was combined. Probably a little O3 and S2 boost. And we'll do a little SCNR as an initial starting point. So I think this is going to be a good initial starting point for us. We do want to just check out the lightness. We'll look at preserve. Or H alpha. Preserve definitely looks like a softer overall. H alpha has that little bit brighter color. I'm going to go with H alpha and just hit apply. Now for adjusting colors, there's two ways. One, we could use masks. The other is utilizing Jurgen's toolbox selective color correction. I think I'm probably going to do a little of both. We'll start with selective color correction. I don't think there's a lot of reds, but we can go ahead and show the mask. I think what we want to do is look at the greens. Let's try to get the greens shifted over a little more to the goldens. We definitely want more mask blur, so you could use the smoothness. Otherwise you'll have steep gradients between the color regions. And now we wanted to bring down the green. Maybe add in a little reds. And even a little yellow in there too to bring back some of the oranges. Yeah, let's go ahead and apply that. When you're done applying, I always hit the reset. Now we can go ahead and look at the red. And we're going to want to bring up the reds and maybe bring down the green a little bit. See, I'm already not liking how it's handling the gases over here. So I may actually just hop out of Jurgen's selective color and see if some broader masks will help. Be sure to hit the red X when you're exiting his tool. Sometimes it can get hung up with other items. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the color mask mod. In this one, we can control a lot more of the range of colors we want to adjust at once. So let's go ahead and make a mask with all the reds and yellows. All right, this is what we get here. You are going to want to blur this quite a bit. Otherwise, you're going to have, again, those steep gradients. So I'm going to use convolution. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Go ahead and apply that mask. And then Control K toggles your mask if you ever want to just use a keyboard shortcut. I'm going to use some curves. We want to bring up some reds. And bring down some greens. Maybe a little up with the chrominance. We'll apply that. Now there's all these beautiful cyans up to the upper right here. Let's go ahead and look at the cyan mask. Just see what that looks like. We'll be sure to blur it. Go ahead and apply this mask. Just try to bring up some of the blues in that cyan area. Maybe get rid of some of the greens in there. Okay, for the magenta, we're definitely going to want to get rid of this pink in the middle here. You can invert the whole image. And now you'll notice the magentas are actually a green color. You can just use some SCNR to get rid of that green in there. And it takes care of the purple pretty nicely for us. I think maybe even just a touch more. I did have it at 0.47. There, magenta gone. Now let's go ahead and look at where the 4-ax landed. See, the 4-ax has a lot of this beautiful ruddy color, but it's not nearly as defined in the outer dust as our current SHO we're working on. But I am liking some of the color structure in the center of the core as well. So now it's a judgment call. You know, everybody has their own personal taste on how you want to handle these colors. So let's just do a little more playing around and see what we can come up with. I'm really liking how the outer portion of this is handled. So I'm going to actually pull a luminance from the SHO. And using LRGB combination, we can go ahead and apply some of that luminance to the 4-ax one. I'm going to lower the channel weight on the luminance a little bit. You put the luminance in the L channel here, and then you can drag and drop it on. Alright, that's done now. Now we can get a little comparison of what's going on between the two. Here's our current SHO that we're working. Here's the 4-ax. They both have some good pluses and minuses, especially down deep in the pillars here. So let's try something crazy. I'm going to go ahead and just combine them and see how they kind of look. You can go to toolbox combine images. So we have the 4-ax, and then we're going to want our SHO. We're now going to want screen. We're going to want to blend the two. And I'm liking a lot of that color in there. Maybe we want a little more on those reds from the 4-ax to come through. I think that'll probably be good. Let's hit the green check. There. And now here's our blended image from the SHO and the 4-ax. Kind of gives us the better of two worlds. I think now we just need to do some color boosting. It is looking a little flat. So let's see where our yellows are. We want to make some of that transition area pop with some curves. We'll be sure to blur that mask. Do want to increase the chrominance a little, and let's maybe put in a little S curve in the yellow region. Then let's go ahead and look at these cyan and blue areas. I'm actually going to pull up the color mask mod for the cyan and blue areas. We'll go ahead and adjust the blues up here. And the B channel, if you use it, is very strong. So you do want to be a little light if you ever use that. And you can pull down to make the blues much more vibrant. Let's go ahead and look at a red mask now. And in the reds, we're probably going to want to put a little S-curve to get some contrast in there. A little more of the reds. Again, up on the chrominance a little bit. I think color-wise, we're getting there now. What we want to do is get some more contrast. So we could do kind of 2 passes. We'll do one broad one and then one tighter into the core. So I like using local histogram equalization. And on my kind of drizzled images, like the 190 range is usually pretty good. And then a 0.2, since it is pretty strong. We'll go ahead and apply that. All right, with that done, I think we're going to want to do it again, but have it much more fine on the sample size. And we only want to do it kind of in the brighter core here. So we'll go ahead and use mask range selection. We're really only going to want it down deep in the core there. We'll apply this mask and then go back to local histogram equalization. This time we're going to want a much finer kernel radius. Yeah, that's going to help amplify the contrast on the pillars. We'll go ahead and apply that. I think we're looking pretty good. Just probably going to do one final curves adjustment here. Just a little bit of an S curve here. Not much. And then there is a trick if you notice color modeling in the background. The best thing to do is go ahead and pull a luminance. So here's the luminance. And then what we're going to do is use convolution on the main image itself. So let's zoom way in, and it's usually like 4 pixels worth. You just want to get rid of any color modeling you see. And then when that blurring is done, go ahead and open LRGB combination back up, put the luminance in the L, and drop that back on your main image. Okay, with the luminance back in, the modeling is gone, and our sharpness is back as well. I think this is looking pretty good for our tutorial right now. Why don't we go ahead and get our stars going? So we had our stars only images here, and let's go ahead and use my narrowband to RGB star combination. We had H alpha stars, oxygen stars, and sulfur stars, and we definitely want to apply our star stretch. Let's just give it a go at its defaults. Here's our stars, and let's go ahead and zoom in and see what we got. We got some beautiful oranges and reds, some blues, some white ones. In the core there, we got some other bright blue ones. Even all these little tiny gold and yellow ones off in the left. So I think the stars look pretty good. Now it's just a matter of combining the two. The easiest way is using Jurgen's toolbox combined images. You could also just use pixel math and use the screening formula, but we'll go ahead and just pull this script up. And we wanted to blend the starless image with our narrowband to RGB stars, and the green check will finish the process. And there we go. There's our final image with the stars put back in. I do know for a fact this orange star over here is a carbon star. It's always good to kind of wander through your images and see what you're looking at. This was a longer video. I knew processing narrowband data would be. If you stuck with me this far, I really appreciate it. Again, if you're a channel member, you'll have access to the master lights, and you can go ahead and play around with them. I hope you guys have learned a tip or two. Please comment, like, and subscribe.